back again for another episode on the mobile homes course. We're going to be looking at the settlement procedures for your purchase. There's gonna, like I said, man, I can only stress this so much. This is going to change from state to state always. So all I can really do is give you the basic understandings of the guidelines of what you need to do. I'm not going to be able to drill in and tell you exactly what to do, but I'm going to give you an overarching understanding of what it is that you're trying to accomplish so you can start doing the research to figure it out. So with this specific class on the settlement procedures, what we're going to be looking at is oops, I hit the wrong button on my clicker. You should be able to figure out how to contract a property for purchase, file the necessary documents to clear any liens, as well as final conversations with the park manager and your final application for title. So that's what we're going to be discussing in this particular class, and we'll just move straight into it. So part number one, executing a purchase agreement. I'm going to give a sample purchase agreement. It may or may not be loaded at the time that this video gets out there, but we are, just as like an FYI, we're starting Propelio Legal, and Propelio Legal will be providing a bunch of these documents to you. So look forward to that, and I'll be getting those out as soon as possible. We're in the final stages of getting that company started. So moving forward, your purchase agreement should contain at the minimum, the following items: your sales price, payment method, any down payment or financing, and the date to close. So if I'm sitting down with the seller and they come up with the price, I need that in my purchase agreement. Exactly how I'm going to pay them. I'm going to pay them cash, cashier's check. Am I going to pay them with a credit card? Am I going to give them like some gold? It doesn't really matter, but I need to disclose how I'm paying them, if there's any down payment included or financing included, and the date that I'm supposed to close and complete the transaction. A description of the mobile home, including the manufacturer name, model, build date, label and plate numbers. Remember, label and plate numbers, they have their own class. We're going to need the location of the home, and if it has to be moved. You know, I don't want to purchase a home and then find out after I've purchased it that the seller will not allow that home to remain in place. That is an important piece to this purchase agreement. You do not want to find out after the fact that you're going to have to move the house. You need to disclose or not disclose if the mobile home contains land in this purchase agreement. I know that what we've been discussing is buying personal property inside of mobile home parks, but you may venture out and say, you know what, I'm going to buy one on land. Well, if you are buying it on the land, you need to disclose whether or not the land is included in this purchase agreement. If it is in a park or on leased land, you're going to need any lease information pertaining to that property, including any arrears for the mobile home lot. You don't want to buy one and find out they're 6 months behind on rent and then have to pony up that money. Contact info for all parties involved. That would include you yourself, the seller, and personally, I would like to get the park manager's information on there as well as the possession and closing date. So it might say that I'm going to close on the 10th, but I'm not going to receive possession until the 20th. We need to document in that purchase agreement who's going to pay for it during that time. Like, that's 10 days. If I buy it on the 10th and I lease it back to them until the 20th, I probably need a lease agreement in place, not just a word, you know. And what else should I be including in that? Yeah, seller's temporary lease would be important to have on that if you're going to take possession post-closing. Just things to think about. All right. When we're talking about title transfer documents, every state will be different, but what I have found is that the title to mobile homes is almost always controlled by the Department of Motor Vehicles or the Department of Public Safety, depending on what state you're in. Texas, on the other hand, has a complete and total unique system. It may not be unique to the rest of the states, but I'm pretty sure it is unique to most of them. I believe we're probably one of the only ones in the union that have this, but we have what's called the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. TDHCA is what manages all mobile homes in the state of Texas, and they do actually a rather good job of documenting the transfer of homes and keeping an online database of those of those manufactured homes for you to browse and establish chains of title. So if you're in Texas, TDHCA is where you're going to do your title transfers. Every other state will likely do it through the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Department of Public Safety. This will be part of your homework, so go ahead and write that down now. Find out in your state exactly how to transfer a title, as well as what documents that state will require of you to transfer it. You might need a title application, You might need some form of statement of no taxes owed. You know, they might force you to go to the tax office and get them to fill out some sort of statement. Texas does. It's called an 18-month tax statement. So for those of you in Texas that know what I'm talking about, you're going to have to go to the taxing authority, and I do believe it is not the Central Appraisal District, but whatever the taxing office is. You'll go to the taxing office and say, hey, I need an 18-month tax statement for a sale of a mobile home. Many of them are not going to have any clue whatsoever as to what you're talking about, but I guarantee you that this is required, and you're just going to have to find the right person at the tax office to talk to, because you have to do it to transfer title. Whichever forms you need from your state to accomplish the transfer of title, you need to have with you. So figure out what your state's going to require and go through the processes of getting all that collected, so that way you may be able to begin your journey as a mobile home investor. Stepping into the next piece, I need to verify any liens against this property. Verify there are no liens on file with your local authorities. That might be involving a trip to your county clerk's office for a search. I don't know about all of that. Texas made it so easy that I haven't had to spend much time doing any of that. But whatever, maybe it's the Department of Motor Vehicles is where they file the liens. I don't really know outside of Texas. Texas is all done through the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, so that makes it easy for me. But you need to figure out in your state how to verify that there are no liens with your local authorities. You can inspect your title. Like, I can take a look at the title and see there's normally, as far as I've seen, always a section on there for liens. That title might say no liens. And if I take that for face value, I could potentially purchase a property that does have liens against it. Why? That paper that says no liens on it could be 10 years old. It could be 30 years old. And I do not directly know that there's no liens at the time I purchase it, because there may have been a new title issued with a lien against it. So if I do have the title and it says no liens, that's great, but I still want to call whatever the respective authority that handles liens for my manufactured homes. I want to call them up and verify yet again that there are no recorded liens against that vehicle. Or I say vehicle, but in most states, manufactured homes are considered vehicles, or they're at the very least taxed and treated as vehicles. If I do find that I have any liens against that property, I need to collect the necessary release of lien documents from lien holders or pay off amounts to clear liens. Now, I have discussed this in a previous class on title research, so I'm not going to go in a deep dive on this. But, you know, Texas, at the very least, it's called a Form B release of lien. You're going to need to get that filed for Texas. I don't know what that form is for your other states. You know, Texas, Form B, release of lien. Very simple. You're probably going to have something similar to that in your other states. So try and figure out how to release a lien in your state. Some other things that I know about Texas is it happens often. And I'm going to try not to go into a deep dive because I've already discussed this in another class, but getting to hear it twice isn't going to hurt your feelings. It's not uncommon for me to have a lien on a title and that lien holder no longer be in business. In Texas, I need to file what's called an affidavit of fact stating that this is the lien holder. They're no longer in business. This is the date they went out of business. These were their contact numbers. I've tried to contact them here. I've sent certified mail to their address in here. I've done all these attempts to collect it. I have paid off the lien, but I have no way to contact them for a release of lien. Will you release this for me? State of Texas, so far I've done it twice, 2 times, 2 wins. I haven't had any losses on that side. They released them for me. Figure out how to do this in your state. And then one of the last pieces is unable to locate lien holders may require affidavits. I kind of touched base on that unexpectedly in that previous point. But moving forward, this is a very important step, and you may see this and disregard it because it doesn't seem as important because you just don't have the experience that I do. And the experience that I have means that this is important because I got burned pretty bad for it, for a pretty good chunk of money. I say a pretty good chunk of money in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't that much, but I lost probably around $7,000 or $8,000. I'll explain more about that here in a bit. But this is going to be your last chance to confirm with the park manager that the park manager is completely comfortable with you doing what you're planning on doing inside of this mobile home park. The purchase and resale, what I need to confirm with the manager is that they will allow the purchase and resale of the home owner financed as long as I transfer the title. You know, it's not a rent to own scenario. It's not a rental whatsoever. The person that I sell this property to will own the home. They will have title to the home. I will just carry the lien. Mobile home parks shouldn't have a problem with that. If they do, don't try and argue with them. Maybe try and explain it to them in a couple of different ways because they may not directly understand what you're doing, but state it in such a way that it's clear. And if you're doing that, then make sure that your park manager is cool with that. Next step is make sure that you know what the the mobile home park standards are. So that way you may modify your mobile home to meet their standards. They may only allow specific colors or certain square footage of garden area or certain square footage of front porch. You know, they say, I want a front porch that's a minimum of 100 square feet. I want a minimum of 45 square feet of planted garden. I need, you know, X, Y, and Z, only vinyl skirting, only metal skirting. I require window screens on the outside of the home. I require, you know, a screen door. You don't know what that park's going to require, so you need to know upfront prior to purchase so that way you're not hit with unexpected costs after purchase. Something else I need to verify with them is that my lot rent is current and not delinquent. I always request a written statement balance. Why would I request a written statement balance? Because I've had a park manager in the past tell me there were no past due payments, only to find out after I closed that they were scared that I wouldn't buy it if they told me, and then they disclosed it to me after I bought it. Not a good scenario for you to be in, so always look for a written statement of balance. I always get a copy of my park rules and leasing information prior to purchase. That saves me a lot of issues. And then any leasing restrictions that they may impose not only on myself but any future occupants of that mobile home. I do not want to purchase a home to find out that it's deed restricted to 65 and over if I'm not prepared to sell it to 65 and over. I don't want to find out it's a senior housing restricted to a 55 and older minimum occupancy of one individual just to find out. Animals, pets, dogs, what are we looking at here? Figure out what those are, okay? And then any known increases in lot rents, utilities, or any other form of payment increases. Is the park planning on increasing lot rent anytime soon? Are there going to be any special assessments for adding in carports or anything like that? Is it ran by an HOA? Is the HOA in control of this mobile home park? There's a lot of scenarios that you need to talk through, and this is your last opportunity to do so prior to the purchase of this home. Don't skip this, okay? You're going to want to verify your city, county, and state taxes. Depending on your state laws, you need to confirm those. I can't tell you how to do it outside of Texas, and I keep hating to fall back to that, but at some point in time, you're going to have to take responsibility for generating some of this information on your own. I'm giving you the strong overarching understanding, but you're going to have to go back into your state and figure out, you know, how these manufactured homes are taxed, and if the taxes become delinquent, how are they controlled at that point? Like, do I get a tax lien? Do I get tax whatever? You know, research that, figure that piece out. All right. In the state of Texas, I do require a no tax due form. It's called a 18-month tax statement. So if you're in Texas, go check that one out. All right. I put this in here twice. Guess what this is? Confirm with your park manager. Just in case you missed my last warning, do not skip this. It is important. As I scroll through this, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. I purchased a unit on a Friday evening. It was a stellar deal in my eyes. It was a double wide, one of the only double wides I've ever bought. I'm not a fan of buying double wides because they cost twice as much to move, and even though I don't like moving them, I don't get a whole lot more money for them. So not a big deal to me. But it was a double wide, and I don't remember the purchase, but I believe it was $8 grand. I'm almost positive it was $8 grand. It was like a mid-1980s double wide. Rather good condition, like it was move-in ready. I did some improvements to it because I always just like to spray fresh paint and fresh carpet on the inside because it just gives the home a nicer look. But I put new carpet, new paint on the inside, new paint on the outside, and I was all into it for probably about 12 grand. Worst case scenario. But it was a Friday night purchase, a Friday evening. So I show up to Friday at probably around like 4:45, and the park manager's closing down the office, and I just storm in there real fast at the end of the day, and I'm like, hey, you've got a mobile home available for sale in here by an individual. I'm looking to purchase. Is there any issues that you would have with me purchasing that unit, bringing it up to your park standards, and then reselling it and transferring title to a new owner holding a lien against it for payments? And the park manager's like, oh no, people do that kind of stuff here all the time, not a big deal. And I was like, well, can I get a copy of your park rules just so I know what your standards are that can be brought up to? She handed them off to me, and she was like, good to go. And I was like, so we're good? She was good. Conversation was about 5 minutes. I buy it Friday. I show up on Monday to have my crews start going through and cleaning up the home. Well, I show up on Monday to let my crews in, and I notice the front door had been kicked in, and I'm like, oh no, no, bad start to this day. Can imagine, man. It's a Monday morning. I'm like, no. And as I get the door open, I immediately smell fire. I smell burn. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. And as I open up the door, there's like a little wall here and then a hallway that goes down. And I can kind of look around the corner of that hallway, and the whole hallway is just burned. And I can see straight out the backside of the mobile home. Like the wall of the back of the mobile home is gone. It had caught on fire. And I'm just sitting here like, damn, that sucks. So that ended up adding about $4,000 to my repairs. I know that doesn't sound like much, but I added about $4,000 to repairs. What had happened is the next door neighbor flicked a cigarette. It landed on the skirting of my home. The skirting caught on fire. The outside of the house caught on fire. It ate its way inside of the bedroom. So I had to completely rebuild that bedroom in the outside corner of that house. Fortunately, the fire department got it put out pretty quick, but it was a problem. Okay, so now that's an added expense, but I go through, I put all this together, and I sell this home. It was going to be about a $45,000 sale with about $800 a month in cash flow. Really good cash flow off of this deal. I sell it. I get the buyers to sign all the paperwork. I send them to the office to get approved for a lease, and they ghost me. Refuse to start answering my phone calls. I'm going to speed this conversation up. I sell it again. Same scenario. Paperwork signed, send them to the office, ghost. Sold third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time. I sold this thing probably at least 6 or 7 times. And by the time I hit the 7th time, I was like, let's go to the office together. I probably should have done that sooner than later. I don't know what was going on. I was not in the right state of mind at that point. I go to the office with them, and the office refused to deal with me or them at the time. They're like, we're too busy. So what I ultimately discovered after finally somebody I talked to, the office manager was completely okay with me doing my business there. What she did not disclose to me up front is that every time I sold the home, I would send a pre-qualified buyer to her. And she got bonuses for selling mobile homes within her park. So I would go through the process of finding her a buyer. I would go through the process of qualifying that buyer, and then I'd send that buyer to her, and she would undercut me on the sale of my home and sell one of her homes to the buyer I just secured. So thinking back on this, there were multiple different things I could have done, but ultimately what I did, and it was for my own sanity at the time, because this was supposed to be a somewhat passive investment for me that turned into a much more active investment. I just sold the thing off for cash. I sold it for like 10 grand cash. By the time I was said and done with it, I lost about 6, 7, 8 grand, somewhere in that range. And I learned a lesson there. What could I have done to have prevented that? I could have, probably, what would you say? I probably could have vetted that manager a little better. But ultimately, she was lying to me. And she wasn't directly lying to me. She just wasn't disclosing that, yeah, I'll allow you to do what you're doing, but I'm going to do everything I can to take your buyers from you. She was giving them 0 lot rent, 0 payments. And it's like, I can't compete with the park manager when stuff like that's happening. But what I could have done differently on the back end is once I started seeing a pattern of them going to the office and not coming back, probably the time I saw that the 2nd or 3rd time, I probably should have just inked up the paper, did it all, got their down payment, and just completely and totally closed the transaction, and then told them to go sign a lease so they didn't have an option to back out. That's what I would have done differently that 2nd time around. But in the heat of the moment and with the stress that it was causing me, I just threw my hands up and said, you know what, I'll take the loss. I'll move on down the road and get some of my mental capital back. All right, so confirm with the park manager. After you've done these steps, you've confirmed your title, you don't have liens, you're verifying your taxes, you're verifying your communication with your park manager. At that point in time, unless there's other things within your state that are required, I'd feel okay with paying the seller. And then I would submit my title packet to whatever the authority is to transfer title. And from that point forward, it's kind of your home. So this entire process should be able to be done in about a day, depending on if you have any liens or anything like that. Liens can take some time to clear. On my side, most liens that I clear would be within a week to 3 weeks is what I've been seeing on my side. But if you don't have any liens, within a day, you could close this property out on the hood of your car. It doesn't require a title company, at least not in Texas, and in most states I don't believe so either. So that's a good thing for you. Now, don't let that confuse you between personal property and real property. We discussed that in a video before. If it's real property, yes, you need a title company. But this class isn't about real property. It's about personal property. So if I confused you on that, go review that personal versus real property video. Other than that, we might hit some complications. And we discussed some of these complications in the title research video, and I'm going to highlight them here again because you need to know how to handle these. What happens if the homeowner doesn't have title? Well, we're going to need to research the chain, figure out who is in title, and figure out if bills of sale have been completed, figure out what happened in that chain of title, and then get the title recorded. Go back to the title research video. This process will be different from state to state, but you will need to figure out how to clear bad title. This happens a lot, especially on the deals where you're able to get a good discount because you are solving a problem that some people don't know how to solve. So what if they do not have a title, but they do have a bill of sale? This goes back into just researching. Watch the title research video, get deep on this. I can't give you direct answers on this because it's going to vary from state to state. In Texas, all I have to do is create bill of sales, affidavits of fact, file them in according to transfer title to title to title. And if that property's changed title 4 times before me, I have to pay 4 application fees to transfer it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. That's the way state of Texas works. I don't know how Virginia works or Vermont or Montana or California. You need to figure that out. Texas, affidavits of fact, applications for SOL from each transfer, and then any copies of bill of sales or anything else in between. Okay, what if they have the title, but it is not in their name? Same scenario. I'm just throwing over complications that you might arise. And then what if the homeowner passed away and you're speaking to an heir? That gets a little more difficult. That gets a little more challenging. That's going to depend upon that state's laws. If the seller died testate or intestate, if you don't know what that means, check out a probate course here in the academy. Did they die with will, without will? That's what intestate, testate means. Did they, if they did have a will, was the property addressed? Was it not? Is it going to probate? Can we file affidavits of heirship? Who are the heirs? How many heirs are there? Lots of questions to go through on that. I'm not prepared in this course to give you all of those answers, but these are some of the complications that will arise. But if you do end up with an heir, start researching probate and or intestate, testate law within your state. I will be covering a probate course for you here in the academy, so I'll be able to shed some light on those questions, but that's the common complications that I have found dealing with mobile homes. Homework. Research your state to find out what authority is responsible for titling mobile homes. Gather all paperwork you need for lien releases, title transfer, purchase agreements, bill of sales, etc. I'm going to try and provide as many of those documents for you as I can here in the resources section of this video. Keep an eye out for it. If it's not there when you check, just make sure that you check back as we progress in building out the academy. Study any mobile home related law for your state. This may be boring, but it is exactly how I learned a massive amount of info regarding manufactured housing in Texas. That is exactly how I found out a big chunk of what I speak on here in Texas, and that is I took the time to find the statutes that govern the mobile home industry here in Texas. I believe it was MHSA 1201, TINTAC 80. Those are the 2 that pop up right off the top of my head. Then you got Chapter 94 of the Texas Property Code. That also covers mobile homes. And then I think it's Chapter 301 of the Texas Financing Code that doesn't directly pertain to manufactured housing, but it does pertain to small creditors, people that are extending credit to people. So depending upon your state and your state laws, you may or may not be required to become a licensed creditor to do this. Just throwing stuff out there. So get in touch with your laws, figure out what they are, read them. If you're not willing to do that, then great, go out and hire an attorney to do it for you. If you don't have the money to hire the attorney, you might want to reconsider investing in mobile homes. It's going to take a commitment from you. I'm not that standing in front of the room sales guru guy that's going to tell you you're going to get rich in your grandma's basement. This takes work. And if this work is uncomfortable for you to do, then pause the brakes right now. But go out there and do some research. It will help you out tremendously. Have a great day from Daniel Moore here at Propelio, and I was told to stare at the screen when I was done.